Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine. We're having fun here, the panel and I, before the program. You'll never know what it was because we don't record that part of the program.
Thank God.
Thank God. We got Tony the Calf with us. We got Derek Frisbee from DF Sports. We got Brian the Troublemaker. And we got Double P, Peter Piper Picker Pepper. Who wants to defend why he said the Browns would score 36 points against the Packers. So, Peter, we'll let you start. Go ahead, defend yourself. Defend your life.
Well, I was just going to say, like I said on the Friday show, I thought the Browns, they could have scored 36 points. And being honest, like I knew from the Ravens game a few weeks ago when Baker actually had some rest, he looked all right. And then we had the 2 illegal contacts or DPIs or whatever you want to say, and we didn't get the calls from the refs as usual. So I thought the offense looked good. And then we had Nick Chubb getting 100 yards again, which I just thought he was due a big game. So that's why I thought we was going to score 36.
Well, it's not. Look, nothing is impossible. And, everything that I read on social media now is the blame game. I mean, seriously, this seems to be more the point of social media than anything. Maybe it's the way we absolve ourselves from our own sins, but we feel the need to play the blame game. So I'm going to get my chance to play the blame game. And I think some of y'all are going to be very surprised at what I have to say. Of course, the first thing that comes up in the blame game, Baker Mayfield, the most polarizing name in Cleveland sports. Now, 4 interceptions with a 5th one dropped, hickory dickory dock. All right? It was ugly. The first interception, if you can remember that far back, was deep in his territory, the play action, and the long pass to DPJ, and intercepted. That is 100% on Baker Mayfield. No 4th-year quarterback should ever throw that ball to a man double covered down the field like that. It was so bad that, quite honestly, all DPJ could do was shove the guy to the ground after he intercepted it. All right? And the wisdom, first of all, of when you're opening up your game plan a little bit, and when I'm going with the blame game on Baker Mayfield, the saddest part is that they actually did open up things for him and gave him an opportunity to shine, and he ended up laying a big turd. All right? So that I'm not going to sit here, and people know exactly where I've been on Baker Mayfield throughout the entire season. The second interception that he threw was 100% on Baker Mayfield. He threw the ball once again off one leg, falling backwards, and it sails. And here's the deal, and it was a foot above, over, and half a yard behind Jarvis Landry, and got picked off. What I will tell you is this: the mechanics on the throw were terrible. The mechanics on Baker Mayfield are always terrible when the ball sails. This was supposed to have been corrected. Obviously is not corrected. It's been a problem since he came into the league. And quite honestly, that throw, that sails on you is going to get intercepted a high percentage of the time in the NFL.
But it's been exacerbated since he hurt his left shoulder.
Right. So, but the sailing ball, before he ever hurt his shoulder, before he even had injuries, the ball would sail on him some games. And that is a weakness of this quarterback, his footwork. Okay. And now you can say, well, he's got a footwork problem because he's got this harness on. He can't open up his shoulders, and he's got a heel problem. He's got a knee problem and all of that. But that still doesn't explain why the problem existed prior to that and never really got permanently fixed. And I'll make my other point, because it may be the only nice thing I have to say about Aaron Rodgers, is that Aaron Rodgers, when you see him, how quiet his motion is compared to how violent Baker's form is, you understand that the loose limbness and the Baker is very tightly wired. And Aaron Rodgers, was able to, and he's been a high accuracy quarterback for such a long time because his mechanics are so good. His feet are still, he's loose on the field. All right. So the first 2 interceptions, 100% Baker Mayfield. And in a game, you couldn't afford really to fall behind on that field.
I disagree about the first one, but yeah.
Well, the first ball couldn't have been caught by Donovan Peoples-Jones. Do you really think that Donovan Peoples-Jones is going
to knocked off of his goddamn route after after 7 yards?
Well,
I think he might have been expecting the flag thrown though.
You can't do that in Cleveland, though.
You can't just stop. But the other thing is that it cannot be a high percentage play call or a decision. Let's just call it a decision by the quarterback to go back and throw a bomb to a guy who has 2 men on him, who is not even a primary deep ball threat. All right. So I'm giving those.
He did the same thing with Beckham.
Yeah.
But that was a Beckham route. So
yeah. And he's not Beckham. All right. Beckham's not Beckham either, and I'll get to that in a minute. So the first 2 I'm putting completely on Baker. The third one, which was the throw to Jarvis Landry, is not all on Baker. If you watch the play, and again, the rollout to the left, and this playbook was opened up. They were going to ride with Baker and live and die with him. They died. But the bottom line is rolling him out to the left side forces him to come around to have that bad left shoulder. And if you watch the play, and I've really not, I have a video here, but I don't even want to go over it because it just takes too much time and it's too much aggravation. He went out into the pattern. He was open. He wasn't even looking back at the quarterback. He wasn't even looking for the ball. And he raises his left hand like this, and Baker throws the ball, but the ball is thrown more inside than outside. It's thrown too short. And by the time that whole thing got together, the timing of the play was like gone, and it was easily intercepted. And then Jarvis, of course, did his Peggy Fleming impression by sliding to the ground. The problem here is that the chemistry that should be present after the years that they have played together is totally lacking. And the reason is Jarvis Landry has checked out. He's checked out of the hotel. He no longer gets excited, yells, screams, talks to the press. Zip. He's done. Put a fork in him. Jarvis Landry needs to go for himself and for the Browns. And of course, we know how it happened and why it happened, because his soulmate is no longer on the team. And in the end, after the game, if you don't want to take my word for it, take Kevin Stefanski's word for it. He actually talked about this, the transcript, and I'm going to see if I can pull this up for everybody. So let me do this. I hate having to type while I'm doing this. I'm sorry, but this is the easiest way. On Mayfield's third interception of the game when targeting Jarvis Landry, quote, a bit of a miscommunication, it seems, but I think ultimately Baker probably feels like he should throw that ball away or move on in the progression, but a bit of a miscommunication. Now, what that tells me quite clearly is if Baker should have thrown the ball away when the man was open, it was because Jarvis Landry was asleep at the switch and wasn't paying attention, didn't think he was going to get the ball, figured that he was a decoy, and just stopped and gave up on the play. So the only choice for Baker at that point was he could either heave the ball out of bounds, which he would have been criticized for, or throwing the interception that he was, criticized for. Want to point something out at this point. They always say that good quarterbacks can make receivers look good. Well, good receivers can make average quarterbacks look good. And you have guys who in the past, like Megatron, who could catch things that were thrown at them.
Andre Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, there's a whole series of them.
Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Hopkins today.
This is, and if you want to look at the ball that early in the game, Peoples-Jones dropped, and then Lazard makes a play that's even better on a ball that was thrown just as well by Rodgers as it was by Baker, and he makes the play. So Rodgers gets the credit for it. But that was a great catch by Lazard. I mean, that was like one-handed, man, with the guy draped on him. But that plays into this. The fourth interception, we already know. That was a blatant penalty that wasn't called. But at that point, the fact is we had many more opportunities to do more with that game than what we did. So I'm giving Mayfield 100%. I say had nothing to do with the fourth, and the third, I hang on Jarvis Landry. Right? That's the blame game. Now, here's the rest of the blame game about Baker Mayfield. He throws the ball behind Njoku and then too far ahead of Njoku in the critical drive before the non-call penalty, which would have been an automatic first down, 5-yard penalty. The first one was just behind him. And the thing about Njoku that I cannot tell you, but maybe somebody else could explain to me, is his patterns always seem to be a yard long when they're supposed to be carved out a yard shorter. I don't understand the consistency of that player, and the fact that they're throwing to him twice in a critical moment of the game, that's strange too. But be that as it may, the first throw was behind him. The second throw was off. And I'm going to give Baker, a big slice of the behind pie because he threw behind a couple of guys during the course of the game. He seemed to be late. He's not catching people out of their breaks, except, of course, when he does, the guy gets held and pulled by the jersey. And that shit can happen. All right. The other thing I can tell you about Baker is standing in front of a lectern and a microphone and saying, I hurt our team, is about the beginning of the end of that player as he comes unraveled. And basically, as hard as he will be on himself, the fact is that his days in Cleveland are likely numbered. Okay? And he knows
honestly,
it.
He should go.
Yeah.
And all right, so that's the Baker blame game. I hope y'all are happy, because there's a lot more I got to say. And it goes way deeper than Baker Mayfield. For example, I take front office and I say, do you really think that Aaron Rodgers would be the great Aaron Rodgers if he had this cast of wide receivers? These guys are horrible. I'm sorry. DPJ ain't even a reliable 2. He's a 3. He's the third wideout. He ain't no more. He's certainly not a go-to deep guy. God only knows he can't beat anybody because he's not fast enough. What he is a guy who can get you that in-traffic catch, but he's not going to really run much after he catches the ball. In fact, he's kind of like a tight end in wide receiver's body. He doesn't have great
receiver.
He's a possession receiver, and he's a guy that can take advantage of muscling a one-on-one coverage if you have other guys around him. But he's no more than that. He's a 6th-round pick, and whatever he flashed in the preseason hasn't been there, and it's been getting worse the more they relied on him to be the number 1 guy when Odell Beckham was sent away. It's gone into the bucket for that player. So DPJ is not a qualified receiver. Neither is David Njoku. He's not a qualified receiver. Jarvis Landry has checked out. And Anthony Schwartz, hallelujah, he caught a touchdown pass because they were totally confused.
And had like 20-something yards rushing.
And, well, and I'll tell you something about Anthony Schwartz that should be painfully obvious. 2 end arounds where he had nothing but green pasture in front of him and he found the crowd. I don't know how he manages to do this, but he does the same thing on kickoffs. It's like one time he lowered his shoulder and tried to run over a guy. It's like, no. That's not what you're here for. If you see green in front of you, you cut. But he doesn't know how to cut. That proves to me he doesn't know how to run a pattern either. Because the touchdown pass, he just drifted into the back of the end zone and there was confusion in the coverage. There was no coming out of his break or anything like that. So Anthony Schwartz, wasted draft pick who's not ever going to play in the NFL because he can't change directions. And a qualified guy, even a guy like OBJ who ran that very same play for a touchdown a couple years ago, if you remember. When you have an open field like that and a guy with that much speed, you got to be able to take advantage of it, but you got to hit the open spot in the field, and guy can't do it. The front office takes 100% of the blame for the shitty wide receiver core that Baker Mayfield has been given. There is no quarterback in the NFL who could win with this group of people. They don't get off the line of scrimmage, and they don't get open. They suck. And the guy who was the possession number 2 receiver is disinterested now. Doesn't care. He's 29, his body's broken, and he's ready to go to a real contender. He's done. And the $1.5 million hit that the Browns are going to take is going to be minimal. He will not be around next year. But let me remind you that Baker Mayfield will, because he's already accounted for.
Well, technically, yes, they picked up his 5th year, but I think it is likely, and I'll just go ahead and say this now, and this is not me making an emotional reaction. Sunday's game, it's the final chapter for me. I'm done with Baker. I understand injuries and all that, but I think the reality is this front office is going to move on. Andrew Berry said they expect the best out of the final 5 games, which at that time was 5 games. And it's just not been there. I think the writing's on the wall. I think it's probably best for him, probably. He wasn't this front office's guy. But I think when it comes to that, though, it's like with the 5th year, Sam Darnold's 5th year got picked up too, and then he was shipped out to the Panthers. So, yes, they picked up the 5th year, but that, to me, I see a scenario where he gets traded on the 5th year to a team maybe like a Denver or a New Orleans who thinks, hey, we can still get something out of this guy, and maybe they don't feel good about other options.
Here's the deal. He's going to have off-season surgery, all right? It is unavoidable because with the injury he has, he needs surgery. He has no trade value whatsoever. he is the best quarterback on the roster. Okay? And compared to what is playing around the league, he's better than a lot of the people who are playing around the league. So to get rid of him, if the front office gets rid of him next year, that qualifies as malfeasance and incompetence. And that will forever make me just stop rooting for the team. If they decide, well, let him come off the surgery, and if we actually provide the team with a group of wide receivers who are, you can't strike out with free agents like the Browns do. You can't bring Andrew Billings in and just have him eat 6 steaks and keel over. You can't bring in people who are bozos on the field. And John Johnson III, he hasn't made no great plays, but he's made some big waves by doing things publicly and saying things that have brought the attitude of the team down. He was so happy to be here, and it was such a great thing earlier on in the year. But now he's saying before the game, the Green Bay game, run the damn ball. Now, what that does is it pisses on the head coach. It pisses on the quarterback. And who in the fuck is he?
But I think it's more than just him. I think the team is really turned on Baker. I really do.
Well, and if they have, there are things that none of us know as to why people would be so hard on somebody, unless maybe personally he's just a guy who you can't get along with. And he could be a Jeff George guy, a guy who's just an asshole who you can't get along with. And maybe nobody can. But what I'm saying is, no matter what the circumstance is, we have to improve the wide receiver room, whether it's Baker or anyone else. That has to get done. Baker Mayfield, and I'm going to bring Hammer Time in here too. Hey, Hammer Time, how you doing?
I'm great, Mr. Moohead. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. You got to bring wide receivers in, no matter who's going to play the quarterback position. And if you get rid of Baker Mayfield, you're going to just bring in another guy who is a career second stringer, and you'll bring Nick Foles in. Now that he won a game for the Bears, you're going to get Nick Foles. You're going to get whatever.
They're going to go the more diversity route and bring in Teddy Bridgewater.
Yeah, whatever you do.
Your favorite, Deshaun Watson, who they keep talking about.
He's not waiving his no trade to come to Cleveland.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. And also, no matter who is at the helm, the wide receivers have to be corrected. They've got to basically the one you keep is DPJ. He's the one you keep, but Higgins gone because it's a pointless thing at this point.
And they're going to they have to do it through the draft, because there's no free agent receivers right now who are worth anything as far as value on a team who are going to want to come to Cleveland. I mean, you watch this offense and you're a star receiver. I don't care what money they throw in front of you. Why would you want to come play in this? It's like the Baltimore Ravens. That's why they had to draft Bateman. It's because they kept trying to get these guys, and the best one they got was Sammy Watkins. It's not because Baltimore, it's their offense.
Good faith. And what Stefanski showed me in this game is that he was willing to let Baker Mayfield win this game.
Yeah.
He opened up the playbook, and it looked more like not the pin stuck in your ass because you're so tight, Kevin Stefanski. Instead, it looked like it kind of did,
last year.
That's right. And would have scored 30 plus points had we not had the turnovers. So
do you think that he was kind of trying to protect Baker earlier this season, or he was just kind of being stubborn running that 3 tight end stuff?
Combination. He loves his tight ends, and I think that the whole notion of losing OBJ made it even more intensive with the tight ends, and the fact that he had no wideouts whatsoever. But But
Do
I'm
you
not
think
gonna,
him? Do you think him sitting at home watching the offense kind of opened his eyes from a different perspective of things?
I think that he knew that if they didn't give Baker an opportunity to open the game up, they'd have no chance at all by not putting points on the board against Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. That's what I think. I give him
Yeah.
good faith on this.
Yeah, he expected a shootout.
Right. And he
And
was
maybe
right
it-
And
there.
it was a shootout. I mean,
That's right.
It was the
Well,
first one to
and-
24 points. And
but
the fucking kicker couldn't come through again.
well, but unfortunately, I don't know. I know you've watched the highlights and watched Baker's motion. You can tell that he is still suffering, and he is
Oh, sure.
not the same Baker Mayfield that we had on the field last year. He
There's
can't
no
make those
question.
throws. I mean, the last play, obviously, he was held. Everybody saw that. How you don't at least get a holding penalty out of that, I don't know. But whatever. That being said, the overthrows, the underthrows, all those types of things, you can just tell he was off his back foot often.
Yep.
His shoulders weren't rotating because he can't right now.
And that's why I say if you get rid of him next year, then I'm done. I'm done with the front office. I mean, that's just very myopic. The
Yeah.
fact is, you've got to get wide receivers, and
they're-
Baker
they're
Mayfield.
definitely available in the draft this year. That is probably the one position of strength out there.
And there are free agents if you have the right pitch and you have the right story to tell. And the
Do you
Cleveland
think-
Browns have damn near made the playoffs in what has to have been the most ridiculous year of playing musical offensive linemen, of a triply injured quarterback, and COVID, and and everything else. And I'm not saying that the Browns are the only team. There are other teams who are just getting mashed by this. The Ravens are too. The Ravens are just getting crushed by by COVID and injuries.
And they started the season losing their entire starting backfield.
Yep. And and so they're kind of fighting to stay above 500 as well. But the Ravens and the Browns and the Bengals are gaining confidence because the other teams are far worse off from a health perspective. If the Bengals had the problems that the Browns and the Ravens had, they wouldn't be 9-6. Okay, I'm not really worried. The Bengals are an up and coming team, but they're not there yet. They're not a really great team or a really totally solid team yet. All right, and the Steelers are in decline. The Steelers, I mean, just laid down, and I mean, that looked like the Steelers team that the Browns just shit on last year. That was pathetic.
Do you think that there could be a chance that maybe Andrew Berry was talking with Stefanski and said that we haven't got a real evaluation because of how limited the offense has been? Do you think maybe there was a conversation there about opening things up for that reason also?
No.
Because I could see that happening just because
Andrew Berry doesn't know dick about football. No. I think what I believe is that you look at the Browns and what they've done the previous 6 games offensively, and you're going into Lambeau to play against Aaron Rodgers and that team. You're not going to do it. And the thing that's interesting about it is that this whole notion of the 1-3 personnel and it's for the running game is all hooey, because when you have the wideouts being employed, even though they're lousy wideouts, and we had Nick Harris at center, we ran through him like they weren't even there.
Blake Hance even made plays. I bought lottery tickets. I mean, it was
Harris, though, that's a very good sign going forward, because as many injuries as Treader has had, and he's getting older, Harris was drafted for this reason, develop him and hopefully, move into a starter role. So to see him performing good, even though it's been one game, that is a very good sign for him and for the offense going forward.
Now, blame game number 3, coaching staff. Okay. First, we're gonna get Kevin again. Kevin, walked out of that stadium with 3 timeouts. And it seems the referees intentionally measured a ball that was obviously a first down to give the Packers a rest because they were just being torn to shreds. They were exhausted. They'd been pounded. And that gave them the opportunity to bring in a different, fresh set of players and to change their front because the Browns were not using timeouts. The reason they weren't using timeouts was to keep that configuration on the field and keep battering away at them. But it took 1 minute and 50 seconds to get that goddamn ball measured. And by the time that happened, you see, it was just as good as a timeout for the Packers. At that point, you're at 50 seconds left in the game, and you got 3 timeouts, and you're sitting at about the 50-yard line, okay? They come out in a different formation. What's it hurt to use one of your timeouts to say, all right, now what do we really want to do now that they have this stack in the game? How do we want to handle it? But no, we come out and throw 2 passes to David Njoku. Now that just can't be right. That just can't be the right decision. I'm sorry. I watch a lot of football and have for many years, and that ain't the right answer. So Stefanski, I don't know whether he thought he could hold on to the timeouts and cash them in for chips at the casino after the goddamn game. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking, but you can't do that. Yes, we had momentum, but the referees took that momentum away by measuring that ball and taking their damn good time doing it. And you have to figure out better management, and this has been a problem. If we're going to complain about Baker Mayfield's footwork, we have to complain about Kevin Stefanski's game management in game, not preparing for, as in the first 25 play script, but in game doing too much himself. That's failure number 1 for the coaching staff. Here's another good one for you. You're praising Nick Harris, Derek.
Yep.
Nick fucking Harris. You shouldn't be praising Nick Harris. You should be praising Callahan, because the fact of the matter is that he gets everything that he can out of the guys who are up there, who are replacing the guys who are the first stringers. And I've never seen a team get hit on the offensive line like this and still manage to do a credible to an incredible job, frankly, against the Packers, opening up holes. And it's because he works with the players and he's a great
his
position coach.
His offensive lineman is a great reflection of him. And
that's it.
I think Nick Harris did a great job, but yes, it does come from the coaching and development of Bill Callahan. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Yep.
And I'll tell you something else. If an offensive lineman cannot make it, it ain't because he's not getting used right. It's because he ain't going to make it in the NFL, because Callahan, and we got to do everything we can to keep him. And I don't know why we were able to get him, because he's a great offensive line coach. And I'll say this about, and this is leading somewhere else in the blame game, is that I feel great now about using, it's like offensive linemen. They're not at the front of the table, they're at the rear of the table. I get those in the later rounds of the draft, and let Callahan work them and get them.
There's a couple of good ones too. You can get later.
And they'll be there, and because our guys get broken down and beaten up. But I have all the faith in the world that Callahan will get those guys ready to play. However, the wide receivers coach needs to be replaced, and pronto, because there is no discipline in running patterns on this team. They are not sharp. They are not crisp. There are far too many miscommunications. guys going the wrong way, guys ending up in the same spot on the field. It happens every single game. And I don't even know who the wide receiver coach
Chad
is.
O'Shea.
Yeah, O'Shea.
Gotta go. There's
Came
no
from the
attention to
Dolphins.
detail.
He came from the Dolphins.
And send him back to, and put him on a cigarette boat with Don Johnson, for fucking Christ's sake. I about had it with that. And I'll go one step further. Why don't you give AVP that one-way ticket out of town? He ain't an offensive coordinator, and he ain't a quarterback coach. Because Baker Mayfield, his footwork's still fucked up. And I tend to agree with Hammer Time. There's going to be some that's injury-driven. But you got to have a quarterback coach that has confidence in the quarterback and that the quarterback has confidence in. And the coaching staff's failed.
Why isn't AVP in the box? I never understood that. Doesn't make sense to me why you have your so-called offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, whatever you want to call him.
He's neither.
It doesn't make sense to me. Well, that's his title. Doesn't mean he does it, but it doesn't make sense to me why you have Kevin Stefanski calling plays. Why don't you have somebody in the box saying, hey, this is what I'm seeing from here? That never made sense to me.
No. But the sense that it makes is that Kevin Stefanski wants to be his own offensive coordinator and that AVP wanted to be more than a quarterback coach, and so the job didn't get done. Baker Mayfield is like any other player, regardless if he was a number one pick. He needs to be worked with. This is not Sam Darnold, folks. Or maybe I would put it this way. That's not a hole in the wall. That's Roller Girl. Okay. If you haven't seen
Wow.
Boogie Nights, don't compare guys who are absolute busts with Baker Mayfield, who got us into the playoffs when he was healthy. Don't do that. You might have a case against Baker Mayfield and things not being right about him, but he ain't getting the help that he needs. And he needs to be coached up. The wide receivers need to be coached up. There is no sharpness and crispness in the passing game. And of course, there's no speed either. And if we're going to bring in all these young guys coming out of the draft, we better have a receiving coach who is really high and principled when it comes to discipline and precision, because rookies need that big time.
And Jim Eagle, do you think Tom Brady didn't have help with Julian Edelman and other guys at the receiver position who knew how to fucking run routes and held on to the goddamn football?
Edelman was a quarterback.
They were all system fucking players.
Oh, yeah.
And they just ran short routes in New England, too, so it wasn't like you're asking them to do too much either.
But when they threw a 35-yard deep ball, they caught the fucking thing.
Yeah, that's true.
Well,
it didn't deflect off and go for an interception or, get twisted around and, I dropped the ball. He also had fucking killer-ass tight ends. Literally.
Jim.
That lack of speed was extraordinarily evident with the lack of separation by the wideouts continuously throughout that game last week. It just...
And
yeah.
Jim Eagle, there are things that I keep hearing and reading on the internet, and you're just parroting. You're going to utilize the greatest of all time as your example of a quarterback who would never, will never, and nobody as good will ever play in Cleveland. Okay? If you want to live in a goddamn fantasy world like that, feel free. But you're not going to get a guy of that caliber. It isn't going to happen. You're going to have to win with, look, LeBron James got help. He got Kyrie Irving and he got Kevin Love. Before that, what did he have to work with? Daniel Booby Gibson. I mean, you can't win an NBA
Williams.
champ. Danielle Hot Butter Donnie Marshall.
Eric Snow.
Eric Snow, bricklayer from the free throw line. I mean,
Hot Wad Williams.
Old
I mean,
Shaq.
you know, Shaq when he was a totem pole Indian. I mean, please make it stop. I mean, you have to have something to work with. And believe me, Brady had an offensive line where he didn't get sacked. He had a system, and he is innately great.
You know, he only set the all-time touchdown record with fucking Randy Moss. Oh, he's a total fucking zero, isn't he, Jim Eagle? You miserable fucking cocksucker.
Don't go off on Jim. Jim's just repeating what he read. Be nice.
I have a rusty pair of hedge clippers with your fucking testicles on it, Jimmy.
Oh, don't get me in trouble on YouTube just because you're angry at the world. And the one who woke up, you know,
What a name.
all we had to do. What makes you think that Nagger would be able to kick that field goal? What would even make you think that in that situation that he
All
wouldn't
that
just
pressure.
drop a turd right on the field? Come on.
I was just waiting for the mispronunciation. That was just every time the guy got close to the field, I'm waiting for them to go straight up and
Somebody lose their job.
Yeah, exactly. But, you know, the fact is, even in his press conference, Stefanski said that they were trying to get more yardage. I mean, it was a known fact that before the game in warm-ups, Nagger was not consistently making 45-yard field goals. He can't be on an NFL roster. If you look back at his history and read about his college career, this is not an NFL kicker, and they have to do something about that.
How
They
were
really
there's
better
a
free
reason
agent
why the
pick.
guy was available in week whatever the hell this is 7-16 or whatever.
And,
Yeah,
and
he wasn't unemployed because he was getting a raw deal. He was unemployed because he is a heartbeat out there on a team that had 20 people 2
the
weeks
guy
ago.
got COVID. I mean, Chase McLaughlin, and they rushed and found whatever there was, but that guy was not going to kick the winning field goal with the game on the line.
His
They
agent was
certainly-
Randy Marsh from South Park.
Exactly. Well, they certainly didn't want to put the game in his hands. If they could have at all avoid it. That was kind of the point of that. He was going to be there to hopefully kick an extra point, which he didn't, and do whatever else he could. But yeah, it was just it was one of those kind of things. It's kind of like Colquitt coming in here, and the fact that Colquitt's an experienced guy just gave them a reasonable excuse to say, look, Gilliam, you just haven't been doing it, so let's move along.
John Connor.
Yeah.
Have you ever been, John? I wanted to ask you a question. If you've ever been in a car and it was maybe an older car, a rear-wheel drive car, and you got stuck in the mud and you just kept hitting your accelerator and you just kept spinning your wheels, well, that's where you are. If you're still talking about Dorsey and Greg Williams, then there's something the hell the matter with you.
3-4 years ago.
Greg Williams is fucking crazy. And where is he now? Nobody wants to deal with somebody who's mentally imbalanced. I mean, no.
Yeah, he's the type of poker player who goes all out every time he has a chance.
2-7 offsuit? I'm all in.
And John, then find another team to cheer for. If you believe that nobody is going to come to a team that last year was one game away from the Super Bowl, if you believe that with the running game that we have, if we had any kind of wide receivers, we'd be back in the playoffs again this year. We might not be happy with the way things were turning out, and this season has had a lot of frustrations in it. But believe me, you'll get wide receivers. There will be wide receivers. And, you just need some speed. All right. And I don't want to hear about
Robinson
Brashard
later in the
Perryman and the
draft.
fact that he ended up catching a 58-yard pass for the Buccaneers. Well, what else has he done? And it's the same thing. Well, OBJ's caught 4 touchdown passes. He caught 4 passes for 37 yards. What is the goddamn Rams record since he got there? I mean, their quarterback threw 3 interceptions. They won because they were playing the Vikings. Sorry, Tony.
Well,
But-
yeah, and because I started the piece of shit.
Oh my gosh.
The Staffordshire Terrier was my starting quarterback in fucking fantasy.
You're
So
like
of
the
course
kiss
he's
of
gonna
death.
fucking have a Baker Mayfield goddamn.
The absolute kiss of death. I mean, but you look at this and you say it's easy to pull names, but Brashard Perryman has been thrown around from team to team because he drops a lot of passes. Okay.
I think the Rams are undefeated since Odell Beckham came to town, by the way. Just want to clarify that.
Well,
I don't
what
think-
has
they
what
lost
has he
to the
done?
Niners.
What is
Oh,
he
they
do-
lost to the Niners. That's right. But
They lost to the Niners, and
I think.
let me look at his stats.
I think he's caught
One
like
rec-
5 touchdown passes.
4.
4 touchdowns.
He's caught 4 touchdown passes,
So,
and what yardage
which
has
is
he put
4
up?
more than he caught for the Browns.
Well, that
But
was
you're-
the big stat was the fact that Odell Beckham has 4 touchdown passes and no one on the Browns has more than 3. The
Right.
current players. That was
But
the big.
But,
Yeah.
and he's now on a pass first, last, and only offense.
Exactly. That team throws the ball around 50 times a game, where that's not what the Browns are built to do.
And he is not the number 1 target. He
Well,
hasn't.
he's got Cooper Cup
Not
on
the
the other
number
side.
2.
You don't think Cooper Cup would not start on this team in a heartbeat?
He's got
You
the
know.
best receiver in the NFL this season starting in front of him.
So,
No.
yeah.
I know he had a game, 1 reception, I think 9 yards or 7 yards, so he's not doing anything crazy over there.
No, I mean, if you look at the
Well,
money
he had
that
11
he was
points.
paid.
I mean, he helped me win.
Well, I mean, if again, suddenly there's this love for Odell Beckham Jr. Suddenly there is this tremendous love for him.
It's brand name. It's always
And-
what it's been.
And the truth of the matter, and I'm going to look it up for everybody so you can now.
I had to pick him
hear
up
from-
because of injury. So there,
Yeah.
that was a last minute move on my part.
Because
He was
Nagar
the-
wasn't
He
available.
was just well, we don't have kickers, so
Odell Beckham has averaged 12 yards per reception.
which is probably his career low.
And if you look at his whole career, he's on a downward trend.
Yeah, it's been
Since his
pretty
rookie year.
evident.
And there's nothing special about him, and there's no reason to even talk about him
And
because
I think you stated it before. He started getting hurt more and more frequently. And that's the way. That's the thing. When we look at Baker, and the first thing we think of is as soon as the season's over, he's got to get that shoulder fixed. Because if he doesn't, he thinks he's just going to rehab it. He's just kidding himself, and it's just not going to go. You've dealt with shoulder injuries. You know what's going on. It's got to be. Surgery's going to happen. The fact that guys still keeping us in games is amazing. It's really frustrating when they play a pretty solid game against probably the best team in the NFC.
hey, Jim just
NFL.
redeemed himself.
yeah, Kenny Britt.
No thanks.
Way to go, Jim. Okay, you're back in absolute good graces. Don't pay attention to Brian. You're a funny guy. Oh my
edge
god.
clippers.
Hey,
Yeah.
so and the big story of the whole weekend is that other than the fact of the Browns losing, all the magic tumblers fell into place, and there is still a chance.
To let us
Not
down
only is there
again.
still a chance,
You sound
There's a
like,
chance
you
they
sound
end up
like
winning
Jim
the
Carrey
damn
in Dumb
division.
and Dumber.
Yeah.
That's what you said. There is no chance.
are you saying there's a chance? But it's actually a reasonable chance. The Chiefs should or could beat the Bengals. That is a reasonable chance. The Steelers are probably, going to have a tough game against the Browns. They look more screwed up than we are.
We're 10%. We're 12%. I'm sorry, 12% chance.
The Ravens have to lose one of their last 2, and they're playing who?
The Steelers and the
I don't know when the hell they're.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a shot, and then comes the Browns
I
have to
think
take
it's the
care of their own
Bears,
business.
Ravens.
Yeah. So things are there's a chance out there. It's just the fact that with all the
They
stuff
play
that's
the
going on,
Rams.
Yeah, they
There you
play
go,
the
the
Rams.
Rams.
I know that one game. Yeah, they're coming up against the Rams.
Steelers, yeah.
and they look really bad too because COVID and injury, like you said, their whole secondary is pretty much patchwork right now.
Yeah,
So,
they quit. They quit on the field. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a Ravens defense just laid down like that before. They were not even hustling to the ball carrier, like they swarming. There wasn't the effort and the energy there. It was like they've had a lot taken out of them.
Does
really
Huntley
have.
get a
Yeah.
starting job next year?
no,
Casey plays the Bengals, by the way.
yeah, Case. That's what we said, Casey. I mean, the Chiefs Bengals is going to be the game if the Bengals can put together that kind of a thing. I don't know that they can
Browns
do
play
that.
Pittsburgh on my mom's birthday.
Happy birthday.
Oh shit! What a way to turn 85.
Is that in Pittsburgh? Yeah, because we
Yes.
play.
Yeah, the Cleveland game is in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Great.
So,
And
the
that's the
Bengals
word that
are-
gets forgotten, DG, is skilled. And they need to be coached. I mean, if you're going to get young guys, if you want to get some of these Ohio State receivers, whatever the hell you want to get,
Or Williams.
you
former
need,
Ohio State receivers.
Jahan
guys like Jamar Chase do not just show up out of nowhere. I mean, the fact is, one of those in a draft. Okay, you need to work with people to make them more precise and better.
That
Garrett
was
Wilson
and the Bengals.
just declared for the draft, so they're.
I was
not
going to say the Bengals drafting Jamar Chase was the exact type of thing though that you just talked about, Moo, about not taking that offensive lineman, which would be an obvious choice because Conklin is questionable at best to come back and be whatever.
Oh, he's done.
Yeah. So and we know we had other injury issues as well, but obviously offensive line is going to be a need, but it's so obvious that wide receiver. I mean, if you looked at what happened with Burrow last year, where he basically blew his knee out because no one could block for him at all, and you knew that was an obvious thing that they needed, and they get Jamar Chase to go with Higgins and Boyd already. I mean, all of a sudden, you've just made that whole, those three receivers just have jumped considerably. So the Browns can do something good.
John, I really have a soft spot in my heart for special needs children. Okay, and I certainly understand.
Jeez.
I thought you were saying you have a cramp in your finger.
Yeah, I told him that Kitchens ended up 6-10, and the team was a complete fucking disaster the last 7 weeks of the season.
So I'm not going to say anything bad about you, John, because I understand that that extra chromosome it's a doozy.
And I'm not too worried about because Andrew Berry, at least one thing he's done is when he goes and fixes a position group, he's kind of aggressive because when we needed an O-line, he got in the draft and in the free agency, and then last year he got defense. So I think we'll get receivers in the draft and maybe free agency, or at least I hope so.
I don't know.
Actually, DG, my people, we were actually joking about that in prior to the show. We don't really want to be insensitive about it, but yeah, that's one of those things where it's in the back of the announcer's mind, and it's like you're better off just saying Nagar and being done with it, because believe me, there would be some of the people that they have on the sidelines might be foolish enough to do something like that.
Chris Berman.
No, God.
That's got to be the only. Remember, only in Cleveland was that's got to be an only in Cleveland moment. Oh,
Look
we're
at that
without a
little
kicker. Let's sign a guy whose last name borderlines on racism.
Oh my God! I mean,
Yeah, that immediately when I saw that, I just thought Randy Marsh, just like you said, Brian. I was.
Oh man, Tony Grossi has got to be fucking jacking off to the thought of pronouncing that guy's last name.
I think we all know what she loved about
Well,
Jason Campbell.
Yeah.
While we're on the subject, yeah, and that's the amazing thing about Nagger is that he's got this third leg, and you think he'd be a better kicker. You see, there's ways of getting around this, folks.
Oh, it's like a little kickstand.
And let's see what Upstate Picker, who's good with words, he says 2022 wide receiver free agents. DJ Chark, Mike Williams, Allen Robinson, Devontae Adams,
He ain't going anywhere.
Will Fuller, Emmanuel Sanders, Brandon Cooks, and Emmanuel Anders.
If Adams goes anywhere, his last destination would be Cleveland. There is zero chance.
Yeah, but we don't need
Fucking
we don't
Emmanuel
need
Anders.
the guy in bright lights. We just need people with speed who are amenable to being coached up and doing their job properly.
I like
Brandon
Chark.
Cooks.
Yeah, not a bad ball player.
Yeah, DG's got a point. I'm telling you now, and this has been my prevailing thought for a couple weeks now, is that Kevin Stefanski's best years were with Kirk Cousins. And you're going to see the Browns trade Baker Mayfield and a fucking second round pick to the fucking Vikings for Kirk Cousins.
Well, Kirk Cousins is going to be 34 years of age. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he has a fully guaranteed contract. No
yeah, it's
thanks.
fucking $33 million for
Yeah, it's just not. That's not.
Does
gonna
he have a
happen.
no trade? I thought I remembered Kirk had a no
He
trade.
does not
Is that
have a
right?
no trade clause, no.
Okay.
I
It's
just
just
think
his
I don't
contract.
think we're going to need a wide receiver because Anthony Schwartz is going to turn into the guy that we. Oh, never mind.
The go-to.
May the
I'm
Schwartz
sorry.
be with
I'm
the
you.
sorry.
go-to hell guy.
I'm sorry.
Actually,
I've been breathing some fumes in here. So,
May the
But
Schwartz
there's some
be with
people
you
who
on that.
believe that. That's the saddest part. There's people out there who still believe that somehow this guy is going to save our franchise at the wide receiver position.
Oh, there's a lot of people. I mean, John's asked me what adjustments do we need to make in order to win the last two. One is, Pittsburgh is not going to be the cowering Steelers that they were against the Chiefs. They're going to be at home. It's going to be Pigpen's final game at home. Every uneducated coal miner is going to come up north for what they've saved their last 15 years for was a ticket to see the Steelers. And they're all going to be in there, and they're going to be picking their noses with peanut shells, and they're going to be waving towels. And he ain't going to let them down against a team that he has consistently mauled over the course of his career. What you have to do is you have to go in and be assertive and be aggressive. You can't go back into the 1-3 shell. You cannot do that. I mean, at this point, you're all in with Baker Mayfield. And if you just go back to running the same 1-3 against a team like the Steelers, and they just will commit all of their players to the line of scrimmage, and they're not good at stopping the run. The Steelers are like 31st in run defense, if you can believe that. They're terrible. But if with 9 men in the box, I mean, they're going to stuff you. And, you got to have faith and belief and know who you're playing. And I'll say this, all the hype about Najee Harris, that guy, he stops running. He runs the wrong way. He reminds me of so many running backs in the past that we had in Cleveland that, it's like he tries to cut it back when there's room outside. He tries to bounce it when there was room inside.
He's trying to be their entire offense.
Yeah, the offensive line is a mess in Pittsburgh. But you're not going to be facing the same weak sisters that the Chiefs got done with. This is not a group of whipped puppies. This is Pigpen's final great heroic stand. And I think after the way the Browns played, the Browns are a better team than the Steelers, but I think the Steelers may be a home favorite I think that's possible. There is one thing, though, that, through all of this, I didn't bring up. If you're living in a cave, the Browns have activated Kareem Hunt, Jadeveon Clowney, Ronnie Harrison, Malik McDowell, and 4 others off of the COVID-19 reserve.
Yeah. The list is long.
If I can answer Upstate Picker's question here, DPJ is not better than Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd, I thought, was the second receiver. T. Higgins, I thought, was the third receiver in that offense.
Who's really turned into something special.
Yeah, and he's going up and grabbing the ball with his hands, and he's not got the dropsies that he's had earlier.
They picked him with the first pick in the second round, and I remember that was a surprise. But man, he's turned into a very good receiver for
these guys. Are quick, they're fast, they can get down the field. 525 yards by Burrow. My goodness.
The opening odds are Browns -3.
Yeah, I just saw that.
Yeah, and so the other guys
over under 41. I think I'll take the under.
Yeah, Drew Forbes is back, Troy Hill is back, and Jedrick Wills and Mac Wilson are back. All right.
Yeah, it seems like the whole team is kind of they got the band back together, it sounds like.
So what you need to do is come out and play a real football game and smash mouth football and try to overcome the Steelers' emotion. And that means you got to step on them from the beginning, and you got to get ahead and force Pigpen to throw the ball down the field so he'll make mistakes. You cannot let this be another 15-10 where the ball's in Pigpen's hands and he'll just puke one out to somebody who'll catch it with one hand in the end zone. You can't let it get to that. And that's
big
how
JOK game. Heavy RPO offense, big JOK game.
The truth is that's where the Browns season took a skid. Losing to the Steelers was unconscionable at home. And that's what, if that had never happened, all right, which it never should have happened, and the last play of the game was pure luck by the Steelers. If that doesn't happen, then we're right back where, instead of being 7-8, we'd be 8-7. And then all of a sudden, this wouldn't be all so difficult. And we wouldn't have a 12% chance of getting in the playoffs and have to rely on help from other people. So that's where I'm at with that. You got to play them one at a time. And I know that's trite, but the first one is imperative. And if you allow the Steelers to beat you, then you are the same old Browns. And I hate to say this, but Jarvis Landry is the same old Browns, because when you check out, it's obvious that you check out. Be professional, go out on a high note. I hope Jarvis Landry and his broken body heal and that he lands someplace where he's happier. I got no problem with him, but I think you got to be professional, and you've got to keep your nose to the grindstone, and you can't just, stop running around.
He was a big part of the turnaround from 1-31. So, he does have a place in Brown's lore.
Hey, Sherry. You don't know football,
Not
do you,
Jimmy
Sherry?
G.
I mean, quarterback's better than Baker. Mahomes. Herbert? He just lost to the Texans. Come on, Sherry.
Watson hasn't played it down this season.
Hasn't played it down. And
so at least he hasn't thrown more interceptions than Mayfield.
Stafford?
The OC killer?
I mean, until Stafford really does something in his career, I'm sorry. He's 34 years old. Garoppolo. There's a guy who's better than Baker Mayfield. I mean, Sherry, I don't know, maybe you're better turning tricks than you are talking football. My goodness, that's stupidity. When you make ignorance
There's
sound
a
like
cheesecake factory you could work.
Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's fucking less mobile than a fucking horse.
statue. And DG, yeah, Huntley's in a great position, a lot better than Brinkley. And honestly,
Christy Brinkley.
this is for older fans, okay? The older folks have to at least get a little chuckle in during the course of the program. But no, I mean, what a great position if you're Huntley. Honestly, it's like, but then again, Josh Johnson just threw for 305 yards. So, but he's going to get a job as a starting quarterback, and somebody's going to be, oh, so very sorry they did it, because the need for starting quarterbacks. I mean, you've got Superman in Carolina, saying, I think Matt Rule's a great coach because he's hanging on by his fingernails. Cam Newton is one step away from just being over with. It's like, maybe if I say nice things about Matt Rule and he comes back, I can come back for one more year. But the bottom line is no. Huntley's going to take your job. These are the exact quarterbacks who are going to take these people's jobs. Got these backups who in minimal roles playing in a one-read offense. It's like, these people don't want to believe me. The Ravens have a one-read offense. And that's why Josh Johnson, who's 35 years old and hasn't played since Hector was a pup, was able to go out there and throw for 305 yards because it's one read. And the only thing that was different was in the third down and short, when he tried to do the quarterback keeper, you could hear his joints creaking. That was the difference. God almighty. Why should I have to explain this? That would be nice, Keith. Wouldn't that be good to have everything in the Battle of Ohio for Don Criqui to announce?
The Battle of Ohio.
Yeah, God.
And for whatever reason, Baker just hates the Bengals and always plays semi-decent.
Yeah, I mean, that would be a real, but it's not going to come to that, unfortunately. I wish it would. So, at any rate, you've gotten 8 minutes of bonus Moohead, so you can't really complain about that. And,
It's like a Christmas present, a Christmas miracle. 8 extra minutes of Moo.
Yeah, it's just...
And you didn't even shoot your eye out.
Not yet.
Y'all didn't see my jacket that I was wearing last week. I have the official Christmas Story Fragile jacket.
I heard that house got bought. Is that true?
It's a museum.
Probably exchanged hands a few times.
Yeah,
it's currently a museum.
I'm going to go out on a high note here. All right, because Howard Cosell's name has been invoked. So here's the scenario.
Oh, boy.
The Browns against the Bengals in the final game of the year. Crowd is going crazy. Chris Nagar comes out on the field.
Oh, no.
and he's going to kick the game-winning field goal, except the snap gets screwed up, right? And it's going to be a 20-yard field goal. And he picks the ball up and starts going around the end. And he runs for the end zone. Howard Cosell, look at that little Nagar run. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, here's the band. Okay.
Man, he's out of the field.
I'm done. I'm so done.
Hey, we got a whole week to rest up for this now, okay?
Yeah, that's true. It's Monday, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, we're going to do it again on a Monday. That means no post-game show, but, you'll get a halftime show out of me anyway. So, everybody, thanks a lot for tuning into this edition, maybe the last edition of Moohead Radio. But we will be back again on Friday to talk about the Monday game and what it all means and, what happens next as the Browns world turns.
Can we get Rox's thoughts on our old kicker there?
Browns Steelers is Monday.
Now you're getting personal, It's way too personal there, Derek. You gotta know when to pull the reins in, I'm fucking with you. I don't know when to pull the reins in. So thanks everybody. Hammer Time, Double P, thank you. Brian, Derek, Tony, And everybody out there in Moo Land, thanks a lot for stopping by and spending an hour and some odd time with me. I'll be back again. All of us, or some of us, will be back on Friday to talk about the Monday game. Until then, hasta la vista, Pasture Heads.
Oh,
Go
Good
Cavs.
night.
yeah. How about them Cavs?